We're almost there. I'm going live on Facebook. It's not easy, especially when you forget from the last 3 weeks.
It says not screwed.
There we go. Okay, so now I can go back to here. And I will resume. Here we go.
Okay, we ready to start then?
Yep, we're all good. Thank you for being patient.
Okay. So the December meeting of the Board of Water Commissioners is hereby called to order. Boom. Reading of the minutes of the previous meeting.
I'll make a motion to accept the minutes of the November meeting.
I'll second it.
Okay, those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, so carried. Presentation of bills and accounts.
I move we accept the bills and accounts as presented and paid.
Second, Joanne?
Yes,
Okay, those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, it's carried. COVID.
Obviously, it's the resurgence is upon us. The office, like City Hall, is closed to the public. Everybody in the office is still coming into work. The employees feel safe. Everybody's wearing masks. We're still able, because of the pneumatic tube and the drop box, to be able to, continue to serve the customers just the way we would have if they were coming in. We did downstairs. The distribution guys are working on altered schedules to be able to, do social distancing and only have one person to a truck. At the plant, we're not there yet, but we previously had created office spaces and done some other things, so we feel that the social distancing is pretty well in place up there. We did purchase some air filters. We have one in the office, 2 downstairs in the lunchrooms, because we created a second lunchroom downstairs, and 2 at the plant. They're filters, a series of filters that are supposed to, in the unit has a series of filters that the smallest of which will trap viruses. The filter's good for a year, and it covers 360 square feet, which is about the size of all the spaces that we have them in. And they were about $150, and we still need masks and all the other protocols with them, but it's just an added layer of protection. And, it helped the employees feel a little more secure. We have the mayor was helpful. We've been working on a policy for COVID guidelines, when you stay home, when you come into work, how that all operates. It is confusing. You're hitting a moving target. The mayor put one together for the city workers. We were working on ours, and I had been talking to Julie Shaw, our labor attorney, on how to do some of that. And we were able to kind of put it all together today, and we've distributed. I'm not necessarily going to ask you to adopt it, simply because it's going to change, and then you'd be adopting it again. So I think all our employees are, acting fairly responsibly. We have 1 or 2 exceptions, but I think the policy covers it. And if you're out for COVID, you're for a COVID-related issue, whether you're waiting your test results or you're a close contact, you need to provide us with documentation of some sort. And so we've been pretty flexible about what documentation works, but we need something, because we do have at least 1 employee that's been out numerous times. And that's about it for COVID.
Judy, in your report, you talked about vacation usage.
Yes, usually a lot of our employees try to save their vacation for between Thanksgiving and Christmas. And so there's a lot of people our staff is pretty bare bones this time. The last couple of weeks of the year, half the guys are on vacation, either at the plant or downstairs. So we really didn't have to, we're obviously telling some folks downstairs to stay home, but that's been limited because there's a lot of them on vacation. So Ryan was able to work that out so that, he's got enough people in, and we're not, we're socially distancing, one to a truck, and we're minimizing the number of people that we're paying to stay home. So.
Okay, thanks.
Our vacation policy here has always been, you have your vacation to use, you use it in a year, and if you don't use it, you lose it. We don't have a policy of carrying vacation over for our rank and file.
Is that something we should consider at all?
We do it on a case-by-case basis. If there is a real reason why you haven't been able to use your vacation, people who may have a longer term injury or illness that they're out. So you really can't use your vacation when you're not sick. We've had a couple of absences, through in the office where we're working a person short and Jane just hasn't been able to take her vacation. So we pay her out for it. But I think you can't really, with the rank and file, it has to be negotiated. And I know this is a little aside, but I think for some of your management employees, you may want to do it because there's good reasons why management employees can't take all their vacation because they're busy doing their jobs. And obviously we want to talk about this. We want to limit it because that's a liability. Somebody has 20 weeks of vacation on the books and they leave. That's a huge hit to the budget. But I think it probably would be worthwhile to visit for your management employees.
Or they can approach the board if they're considering something like that, and we can make a decision at that point in time too.
We can talk to them and put something together, sure. Yeah.
Okay, thanks. Cooper Lake.
It appeared in the DEC ZNB, the permit notification. We published it in both the Freeman, which we were required to do, and as a courtesy to the DEC, we also published it in Hudson Valley One, which is the media platform of record for the town of Woodstock. So the 2-week public notification period ended the 2nd of December. I just got yesterday the affidavit of publications, which I sent to the permit coordinator in Region 3, and I'm waiting to hear. I'm not aware of any comments that she received as a result of the publication of the notice, either in the ENB or in the papers. Obviously, if there were public comments, they'd have to address them before they issue the permit. And depending on what they were, that might impact the conditions in the permit. But as I say, I'm not aware of any. And so we're waiting on the permit. We expect them any day now.
Okay. Anything else?
No, that's it.
That's it?
And once we have the permits in hand, then Schnabel will be able to finalize the bid documents, because obviously you have to incorporate any conditions in those bid documents. So that we're kind of the permit is the next step. Once we get those, then I think we can move forward and be ready to go to bid pretty quickly.
Okay. Cooper Lake transfer.
On last year's budget, we had proposed to transfer $150,000 from the 2020 budget into our capital account. Matt and I have looked over our finances, and I think we're both comfortable with transferring $200,000 into that account, because water sales are up this year, up more than we anticipated or planned on it. And I think that would be a comfortable thing to do. That would sort of help offset that in the 2021 budget, we're not going to be able to transfer that whole 150 because we wanted to keep the rate increase reasonable during this troubled time that we're having economically and with a lot of our customers are potentially either underemployed or unemployed.
Okay, do you need a motion or is that just something that you can?
Oh,
do
no, we
internally?
need a motion. We can't, and this is a good thing. None of your staff can transfer money without your approval. That's just a good thing.
Okay,
You know, Matt can certainly make the transfer, but he needs a board resolution to do that.
okay, so,
I'll make that motion. We transfer the amount of money to the account of $250,000.
200, right?
200, not 250, 200.
200.
Yeah.
Okay, I have a motion. Do I have a
I'll second it.
second? Okay, any further discussion? Okay, those in favor?
Right.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, carried.
Thank you.
Transmission main rehab project.
Well, we are at substantial completion as of August 31st. Today they installed the fence. Evidently fences are in short supply. It took like 6 weeks to get the materials in. So the fence that's being installed today is a fence between us and the thruway that we had to take down to be able to actually put the pipelines in. That was being done today. It'll be finished tomorrow. And then at the top of the hill, our gate and our chain link fence had to be taken down for the contractor to be able to have access and be able to install the pipes. So the posts I expect were put in today amid the snow flurries we had. And the actual fence fabric will probably be installed between tomorrow and Friday if they need be. And I think we had pretty much everybody up there, not everybody, but several people up there today because the danger was, you know, we did all this work and they would put the fence posts through the mains. So I haven't heard that I'm assuming that did not happen.
Good.
I'm sure I would have heard. We had asked Bernier Larios to go out. They went out on Friday and they actually put lath in on the old fence line. So they marked the old fence line out for us. And then we marked everything really well. The contractor who was no longer on this project, he's been moved to another project. He had all of the GIS locations. And so we double checked everything and our people were standing right there. So just in case. So knock on wood, I'm sure everything is fine.
Is that the last thing that has to be done, the fencing?
They're gonna have to come back in the spring to put up trees. You know, hey Jim, they cut down a lot more trees than we asked them to cut down. We only really wanted them to cut on the easement. And they got permission from the property owner to really extend that. So that's how it looks like this giant ski slope. And the contractor did that for their own convenience. And so we're insisting that they, at their expense, put back trees, some trees at least, aesthetically, and also to make it less appealing for trespass and to stop the wind throw. You know, you got a big open space there. You got this hill. You know, in a storm, you're going to lose some of those trees that are really close to the pipeline. So. They will be back in the spring to do that and make sure the grass grew. Although it looks like the grass is pretty good. So, you know, we're probably going to hold like $50,000 until the spring to make sure everything is fine, but pretty much everything else is done. All the functional stuff is done.
Okay, that's good. The WIA 2020.
Nothing further to report since the last meeting. And that was, 3 weeks ago. So I expect between now and the end of the year, we'll have that crystallized and ready to go to design and bid on. Ryan is certainly not holding it up, but he's out there. He's actually looking at locations, the condition of valves. They're doing kind of a condition assessment on the valves we want to replace there. And that will inform how many valves we want to get out of this project. And that'll kind of define what other things we accomplish. So it's all moving forward. Everybody's doing it, and I don't have anything additional to report since last time.
Quarry Street then.
We sent a letter back to the school district, and I'm waiting on the reply, but I'm pretty certain it'll move forward. We're positioned to do our part, and they certainly said that they thought it was a good idea and prudent to do the improvement on their end as well.
Is there a time frame that we have to wait on?
Well,
We're gonna give them a call at some point in time, right?
I will, but the letter only went out last week, so.
Okay.
He's certainly not over his time, and I think then it has to be coordinated with, they have board meetings every 2 weeks. So I think that if we really have a drop dead deadline for this agreement that Bill's gonna work on with them, assuming they continue to want to move forward. We have everything in place by February, all the agreements. The plans are essentially complete. We can go to bid, and it depends on if school's in session or not. If school's not in session, then we can do it as soon as the spring, April. If school is in session, then we're gonna have to wait until June. Because that is the bus route, and that's where all the parents go up and down, drop their kids off and pick them up from Bailey. And the road will essentially, for part of it, be obstructed. I mean, I think part of it would have to be closed and detoured around Howell and back up and around. So I don't think it would be wise to try to do it when school was in session.
So you'll follow up next month or whatever then?
Absolutely. We should have, Bill should probably, hopefully have an agreement with their attorney.
Okay. The roundabout.
According to what I read in the paper and what our discussions with the contractor, they're on schedule to have the water lines in by the 14th, which is next Monday. Mayor reported in the paper they've already got the sewers done. So I guess that begs the question, do we get some of our money back? I don't know the answer to that question. So
Why would we get money back?
because we have money, I mean, we pay them X amount of dollars based on an estimate. So we needed accounting to see, did they spend that? Did they spend more? Were there change orders? But you will remember we took out a bond based on their first estimate of this. And then we kind of dialed it back a little bit after consultation with Dennis Larios. And we came up with a plan that we really didn't have to put all new infrastructure in some of the approaches. We sort of dialed that scale back to where we really wanted new infrastructure, because we really, you don't want to be working in that roundabout. You really can't. So we took a bond out for how much money?
$1.5 million.
$1.5 million, and I think how much they have 700,000 of our.
We have 630 of that money still sitting in bank.
Right.
With the return if we're done.
Right, so we could return that and not pay interest on it, because we're paying interest on this whole thing because it wasn't an EFC backed bond. It was a regular municipal bond.
What, Matt, I couldn't hear what you said. How much was that?
Took a ban out for $1.5 million. We returned 400,000 back in 2019. It was unexpended because we didn't need all that. And then we made a payment of $28.50, but we have about $650,000 left in the bank account that we could return in our band payment in March if we don't need that anymore.
And my assumption is the city's in the same situation, and that John and Matt need to have a conversation to see what, because I'm sure the city bonded for more money than they expended, as maybe they didn't, I don't know. But certainly we need to have a conversation to see. I don't want to hang on to that money and pay interest on it for another year.
And it was actually, it's not 440, I'm sorry, it could return, 440, not.
Okay. So,
From the city side, we haven't gotten any kind of, even though they said they completed the sewer work, we haven't gotten any accounting yet of that ourselves either. And so I'm assuming that that's going to come hopefully in the near future for, us and for you in the next couple of weeks. They should be able to,
Okay.
have a sense of once the payments are generated for DOT, we should get a general sense of how much the sewer work and or water work actually cost. So.
correct. And yes, and I just hope that comes at the end of that phase of the construction as opposed to the end of the project.
Yeah, and we can, whichever one of us talks to Tim Nelson first, I think we should probably ask him at DOT, which, if we can at least try to get that figured out sooner than later. Obviously, the contractor is putting in for reimbursement, so DOT should know before the project is completely finished next year. We should be able to have a bill, if you will.
Yes, I would agree. I'll reach out to Tim. I know on the water side, there's going to be a couple of change orders. I anticipate having to go to the mat over because, downtime caused by the contractor ripping our existing water main out, we shouldn't be paying for. But, we'll see what their expectation is.
When I rode by today, I saw them working on ductile iron and fire hydrants on, the side where Little Bear used to be.
Yeah, and that's the last, that is, Jim, that's the last piece of the water work that they have to do. What they were going to shut down for the winter and not do that little piece, but then the part in front of Domino's was going to be charged and it was going to sit there all winter with very little flow in it. And not only was that going to create a dead end and water quality issues, but my guess is it would freeze, it'd be like a popsicle. In the spring they were going to be doing it again. So that's why they're pushing through to the 14th to connect that whole piece together.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
That's
So
good.
stay tuned.
That's good news, I guess, isn't it?
Good news, they're done. Yeah, because I don't know about on the sewer end, but they were labor intensive. We had a lot of people down there a lot. So it's all good.
Right. Tech City.
I just put that on there to remind us. I mean, everybody who has been paying is continuing to pay. But we're going to have a situation that out there where I think the department and the board is going to be maneuvered into a corner that they don't want to be in. So I would like to maybe in January schedule a meeting with Bill for the board, outline what our options are and what action we need to take to force the powers that be to the table, because we're writing off. And we're not being paid for the whole contractual amount. We're just being paid by, well, two users, actually. The county's paying their bill. And the table is paying their bill. And they're paying for everybody else. But my guess is as soon as he moves into the county-owned building, that will stop. So we've got a situation that we really need to figure out what action we're going to take, what we're comfortable with, and then see how best to resolve it. So yeah, it's probably something for executive session and we need Bill's input on that. So if everybody's agreeable, we'll kind of gather all that information, what our choices are, and get that out to everybody and schedule it for January, either right after the January meeting, before the February meeting, or whenever. We'll send out a note to see when everybody's available.
I mean, in essence, the contractor agreement we have with Ginsburg is kind of null and void at this point in time, right?
Right, so should we, he hasn't held up his end of the bargain. And so because there's non-payment, technically we should be shutting the water off. And I'm not sure that's what we want to do without first having some discussions, but there has to be other avenues and other solutions that we can pursue.
I guess it all depends on what the county ends up doing with that west side building, right?
Correct, and I only get my information from the paper, from the Daily Freeman, but essentially they're gonna do with that what they've done with the other properties. They're gonna put it into a local development corporation and they're gonna sell it.
Mhm.
And the last thing we wanna do is have a private owner on there and say, oh, you know what? We gotta shut the water off. That's just gonna have to be a legal nightmare. So we really need to get this resolved.
We had to talk about this in executive session.
We do.
There's some real serious issues,
Yeah,
legal issues.
yeah, and so I would like to, if everybody's agreeable, we'll kick that can down the road till after the holidays and we'll get that. And give time for Bill to do some research and for us to do some research and get some numbers together and give you guys some guidance and something to work with and something to discuss.
Judy, we don't have any agreement with Town of Ulster as far as non-payment of water or anything like the city? No?
No,
Is
No.
that possible or no?
I think that's one of the things we can discuss.
Yeah, at least if there was a sale, they would make you whole. If they didn't do it right away, maybe if there was a sale of the property, possibly. It could be like a lien or something.
That was discussed and, I don't think we acted on it. I don't know, but I think there are some, I guess the biggest question for me is, do we even want to be selling water in the town of Ulster right there? Do we even want to be, whatever? So I think Bill's right. We need to kind of explore all those issues and then figure out who we need to talk to get this all resolved.
Okay, we'll look at it in January.
Yeah.
Great, thanks. The 2021 fee schedule.
That was in everybody's packet. Matt highlighted all the changes in yellow. And they're really just based on our cost increases from the manufacturer.
Yes.
Our labor costs haven't really changed.
Okay, so we need a motion to accept this.
Yes.
Yeah, I'll make a motion to accept the new fee schedule for 2021.
I'll second it.
Okay, any further discussion? I'm hearing any, those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, carried. GIS.
We're making very slow progress on it, but we're gonna sit down tomorrow at our staff meeting and kind of come up with a plan on how we're gonna kind of speed that up a little bit. Debbie's doing an awesome job on, we have the map now, and what we need to do is correct it. And using Google Earth, we can do that fairly easily. And then we have to associate with that our gate valve pages. So when you click on an intersection, that other thing pops up. So we have to come up with a plan for how we're going to do that. Is it efficient to get every one of those 200 or 300 pages in the gate valve book absolutely correct before we associate it with the map? Or should we just take what we've got and correct it as we go along? So we're gonna talk that through. But we are making progress on it, and I'm really excited for that to be able to be, a tool for our folks to use. And you can sort of see that, by the end of next year, hopefully we have it out on the street. So it's nice. It'll be nice.
Okay. Correspondence.
Well, everybody got a letter addressed to themselves. I took the liberty of opening it for everybody because when I got one, I kind of knew what they were. So, and I'm sure the mayor got his own. The Jehovah's Witnesses sent each of you a letter inviting you to become a member of their fine group. I guess they can't proselytize knocking on doors anymore. I know.
I didn't get a letter.
I didn't either.
You didn't get one, Jim, because you're too new, but everybody else got sent here in your name. So
Oh,
Bob,
so you have it, okay.
you got it. And they're just inviting you to join their organization. And that was the only correspondence we got. And like I say, it's part of a national effort, according to their letter, that they've identified all government officials throughout the nation, and they're sending everyone their literature that way. Anybody? Huh?
So you filed that letter.
I have it in my possession. If anyone wants it, I'll forward it to you. I'll get it. Just saying. It really has nothing to do with the water department.
Okay. The 2020 financial audit.
I think we have a proposal from what used to be Kimball and O'Brien to do our next year's audit. I think the fee is $21,000. That is the same cost as they charged us last year. I would ask for your approval of that. We're going to have a meeting probably next week between now and the end of the year. We'll sit down and we'll talk about the schedule. We actually start we could even, last year we started before the end of the year. But we'll certainly start right after to do some preliminary things. And then they'll probably come in to start. And our auditors, at least up until now, are still going in and doing site visits. They're here for like 3 days, and they're in this room, and they're by themselves. So I don't think it's, obviously things could change dramatically, but as of now, it shouldn't be a threat to our staff or to them to be here. And then they're done. I mean, then they go back and they do whatever they do in the office. So, we could have that money was included in the budget, that amount of money. As I say, they haven't increased it.
Okay, so we're looking for a motion to accept that proposal.
Yes, sir.
Make that motion to accept what is it?
Why?
Yeah, UHY LLC's proposal.
Yeah.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Okay, those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, carried. Thank you all. The budget you sent us is just the final budget that we approved last month, correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
I asked Matt to put it together so everybody would kind of have a finalized copy of all the minor changes that we made at the last meeting.
Okay, superintendent's report. We had quite a bit of rain, didn't we, in November?
We did, but the lake did not come up. It's continuing to come up. I mean, we had quite a bit over the weekend as well. It's continuing to come up as of the close of November. I think we were up a foot from where we were at the end of the previous month. You would have thought with 8 inches of rain, we would have been up a lot more, but the leaves were they just vexed us the whole, we would 4 times a day, we'd have guys physically hauling leaves out of the intake, and you'd see on the SCADA, all of a sudden you'd have 14 million gallons going from Mink Hollow into Cooper Lake, and 20 minutes later, it'd be down to nothing. It was almost like Sisyphus pushing the rock up the hill, but the leaves are done, so we're doing okay. I apologize. I got busy and I didn't call to find out what the elevation was today. The elevation is the one thing we can't see on the SCADA because we elected not to put the elevation gauge in until after we did the Cooper Lake project. It didn't make sense to install telemetry there and then rip it out and put new stuff.
Sure.
But the programming to be able to have it added quickly is all done. We just gotta physically get the new well house and put the equipment in. So.
Could I ask a question as a new guy?
Go ahead.
What the flow to Binney Water? What is Binney Water? Is that a reservoir before?
You need a tour. Yes, it is.
It is, okay. So reservoir gets where the treated is, where it's treated?
Well, we have a treatment plant in Sauk Hill, at 1442 Sauk Hill Road, just below what used to be the Xena Elementary School. And
Okay.
then from there it goes up in the town of Ulster off of Sauk Hill Road, where that project is that I was just talking about.
Right.
So if you're either driving up or down the thruway, right, just around Boyce's
Not
Farm,
where it is. It's by the
that's the
plant.
name. Yes, that's the name of it. It's our Binney Water Reservoir.
Okay.
It's,
That's what I thought.
Jim, its proper name is Equalizing Reservoir.
Equalizing reservoir. Okay, I got it now.
It's a finished reservoir. Jim, it's a finished water reservoir. You know, water gets treated up and the plant, and then it comes down there.
I've been up there.
Okay,
I know you have. And so it's been treated and it sits there. And so we send water from the filter plant to there, and from there, it goes into the distribution. So we want to be able to track what we're losing. Now, we have some customers between the plant and about 20, between the plant and that reservoir. But we want to make sure that, you know, we're not losing lots and lots of water. So we track, we always have tracked those three places. And on the front, the difference between production and consumption is production is the water that comes in from Binney Water into the distribution system, and consumption is all the water that we bill through the meters. And it's a difference that's way too big. We've looked at the meters. There's a few big meters we've got to deal with. Part of the issue is the way our quarters run, the way our bills run. They don't exactly match. I mean, at our production in quarters, a traditional quarter, January 1 through the end of March, consumption is a little different. That's part of it. But part of it is we've done some leak detection. We're going to continue to do more, and we're getting those numbers tighter, but still not where I want. You know, we still shouldn't be having that much of a discrepancy.
Now, do they have, you know, the, I don't know quite what it is, the manhole or whatever in the town of Ulster? Is there like a flow counter there or no? You know,
Oh, we connect to them?
huh?
Where we connect to the town of Ulster?
No, where the water main comes through their property. And it comes, I forget, it's in town of Ulster. Remember when they had the emergency?
Oh, yes, we do. We do.
Okay.
That's called the compliance point, Jim. I'm sorry I wasn't with you. And I look at that number, but right now that number is really squirrely because they're mag meters and they don't register really low flows. And we have one main that we know we have a flow going through it, but it registers at 0. And that's because, and I know I'm going into too much detail, but just before that, as a result of this Binney Water project, we have a valve that's partially closed.
Oh.
So instead of all three mains taking about the same amount of water, and when they do that, those numbers, those meters are pretty well dead on. But because that one valve is partially closed, and we will be fixing that, there's no, in that line, no water's registering, and we know there's water in there. Because, you know, you can go in that little building and you turn on the sink and the water comes out. So we know there's water. But it's the kind of meter it is. It's not meant to record very low flows. So.
Now, I might have missed it first beginning of the meeting, but did you talk about where they wanted that lock? They said when they did a tour of the county that there was an area that needed, because of vandalism, to get the.
That's been fixed.
You did?
Okay. It's been fixed, and we're up there. You know, sometimes when you change personnel and key jobs, some things get lost. And that's what happened here. Somebody has to be there and check that pressure and check the condition of their monthly. The problem with that pit is it's right on the trail, it's not part of the Woodstock Land Conservancy rail trail, or not a rail trail, but their trail. We wouldn't give them permission to put their trail there because of liability issues, but people trespass through there all the time. And they literally walk right past them. So somebody decided to take a rock or something else and just hack the padlock off. They just broke the hasp. So it should have been uncovered right away. And it shouldn't have been uncovered when we were on the tour, but it was. And, you know, by the next day, Derek had the lock on. He had it all bolted up and ready to go. But he will be in there. His folks will be in there to take those pressures and check that out at least weekly now.
Oh, okay.
The
Thank
tank paying is another issue, so we'll, that was one of the other recommendations, that we paint our tanks in town.
All right.
And that's a big ticket item. Those are big ticket items. And so as a first step, we'll have them inspected this year to see what the condition of the coatings are. It's a lot cheaper if you can paint the outside of the tank and you don't have to paint the inside of the tank. If we have to paint the inside of the tank, that raises a whole host of other issues, and you start to look at should you just abandon that tank and replace it with a different kind of tank? Because New York State Health Department, they're very, as they should be, they're very strict on the volatile organics that come off the new paint systems. And so sometimes when you get in and you paint the inside of these steel tanks, it becomes a real problem in terms of the off-gassing. So in a lot of cases, it's just cheaper to replace the tank. I know that sounds crazy, but so as a first step, let's get it inspected, let's get a report, let's see what condition they're in, what the paint systems are in, and what we need to do. And then with that, we can, you know, we'll get estimates of what it would cost, get engineering documents, and figure out when and how we're going to pay for that.
When the county's in the process of developing that land, or the development agency for the old jail,
Yep.
will that be part of maybe some discussions with the county
It's going to have to be.
between our tank and their tank and the condition of both of them?
Yep.
Maybe we can get between the two of us, a new tank.
Well, it has always seemed a little bit silly to me, and I'm not an engineer, but we have a tank. They suck out of the top half of that tank. They can't even use the whole thing because of the way their pump station was constructed. And then they push it into another tank. It seems like, and our tank only serves them. So it seems that to me that there's one too many tanks in that equation. And that an engineering study could figure out which of those tanks ought to be eliminated. And what modifications would have to happen at one or the other pump station. But I think there's a whole other issue that we have to discuss about the Golden Hill water system as a discrete system. Is it even capable of accommodating a residential development? And what are our alternatives? And there are alternatives, and they're not that, you know, they're not that onerous, but we would have to have those discussions, yes.
Okay. I mean, I guess before they get too far down the road with this, the plans for this.
Well, I was discussing this with the mayor, and they can't get too far because every permit they need to do anything comes from the city of Kingston.
Okay.
So I think there's time to have those discussions. I think they have to approach the planning board first, right? And then there's a zoning issue that has to be resolved. And then there's a planning issue. And I think somewhere during that process, we have to have some discussions.
I'll just add that it is really early in the process, but this is a unique situation because, you know, while we traditionally are involved in these types of developments, if the county retains ownership of this property through the development phase and construction phase. Currently the county is exempt from all of our local land use processes, and they can go ahead and do seeker themselves, as well as the approvals. And so there have been no discussions about which direction that would go, but it is a potential that the county may manage the whole process, which may make sense for the city because it is their project and their land. And but from the water department's perspective, we just need to make sure that we keep engaged, obviously, with them.
They also, I have the original agreement when they formed that area of the district from 1973, and they are not allowed to expand their water supply in any way without the water board's permission. So, I mean, I know that just like us, we're exempt from local building and planning in the town of Woodstock as it relates to our water supply. But in terms of, they still need to get water from us. So somewhere, hopefully it's earlier than later. And I think there are solutions. There's a couple of good solutions in there that I think would benefit both parties.
I think it could be conveyed to a private developer though. Wasn't that the plan?
I only know what I read. I don't know.
I mean, that's, again, it's what we
Don't
read.
know.
But wasn't the plan, Mayor, they were going to convey that to a private developer?
Yeah, again, that's what I read in the paper, that eventually there could be potentially a transfer, but it's unclear. What the utilities, what would happen with the utilities, because again, there is going to need to be water, sewer. I don't know if there'll need to be sewer expansions up there to be able to serve the facility. So there's definitely a lot of open questions, and
it's all very secret. Have you noticed it?
Yeah. So we haven't been engaged yet with them, but I think at some point, based on their timeline, if they want to be open in 2023, in 2021, there probably needs to start some pretty robust discussions. I would think.
Right. And so I have made Dennis Doyle, the county planner, aware of my concerns with the water system, and I did it in email, and I have not yet heard any reply from him. So the people in the county are aware that we have issues. Whether that bubbles up to the powers that be when all this occurs, I don't know. So.
I guess we need a motion to accept the superintendent's report. That's where we're standing.
I'll make that motion to accept the superintendent's November report.
I'll second it.
Okay, those in favor?
All right.
Opposed?
Aye.
Yeah, Matt, I have a question, and Judy, I guess. In the superintendent's report, it isn't like I, wasn't gonna, but you're making an upgrade to the bill pay service here, you're saying with that?
Yeah.
What is the, right now, what is the fee for bill paying? What is it that we have on here? Is it what, 3.5%?
3.5% is the credit card. That's what the credit card third party charges. 3.5%, whatever your bill.
Yeah. Can we get rid of that? Like, do we have to? Is there a way that we can get rid of that charge?
I don't know any way without absorbing it ourselves.
And that's illegal. We can't absorb it. We're a public entity. So a merchant can willingly absorb that for all kinds of reasons. It's to their advantage to do that. Mm-hmm. We can't do that for the payment of water bills, because then in essence, we're giving the person who pays a discount, pays by credit card, a 3.5% discount, as opposed to the person with the same bill that pays with a cash or check. So we can't really do that. But I think now if you direct your bank to pay your water bill, that's a different issue. We'll do direct deposit ACH withdrawals out of your account. We can do that. And that's handled by a third-party vendor right now. And the website is doesn't even look like you're paying your water bill, but it's free. They get some feedback from the credit card companies, I think.
Yeah,
I think that's how they get paid.
There is, I don't know, we're still early in the process, but I know other cities or in the area that have this, there is an option for an e-check with this new portal, potentially. And that, at least for the ones I've looked at, it's $1 for no matter how big your bill is, whether you're paying a $50 bill or a $5,000 bill, is a $1 charge for the e-check, which you can't currently pay with an e-check. You only have to use credit or debit cards through the third-party vendor. Where this will be through our Munis pilot technology vendor.
Joanne, have you ever looked on those, like your Central Hudson bill that way on their website? It gives you a history of your consumption. I mean, it's a little more dynamic. The office spends a lot of time printing bills for landlords who don't know what they paid and need to declare it on their income tax. We become their bookkeeper. So there's a flurry of people between January and April that come in and say, if you tell me what I paid last year, they'd be able to go to the website and download that. What we have right now is through a third-party vendor, a static website, or I don't even know if our name is on it. You know, but this would be, but before we roll it out, first of all, Matt can give us some references on who's using it in, I think Briarcliff Manor's using it.
Something similar.
Right, but I think we'd have some demos to be able to show you, and there probably is some sort of some options that we can elect to add, or some formatting that that you guys can look at to make it more user friendly. I mean, that's our goal, is to make it user friendly and to encourage as many people to have options to pay their water bills on time without having them to go on the tax rolls.
Okay.
Okay, moving on, executive session, anything?
We will have something to discuss. I met with Julie Noble, but Dennis, maybe, when you're able to come in, you're the personnel committee, we'll sit down and we'll talk about it.
Okay,
And Julie Shaw has offered to set up a consultation with you guys. And we don't have to go through open meetings to do that. Open meetings, executive sessions through Zoom are pretty challenging. And the way that, and Julie's been doing this for a long time, and there's two ways. One, Bill had already suggested, we just all agree to leave, anybody who's in the room leaves the room, we close the door, and we all conference on a phone. The other thing is to send a separate Zoom link for a meeting. We all leave, this meeting, get on the other meeting, and it's still awkward. Julie suggested that it's perfectly legal for the board to meet with their attorney for advice and counsel, and that's not subject to the open meetings law.
If it's legal matters, of course.
No, yes, and
these are personnel and.
right. And she said she doesn't normally offer that to a lot of her clients because that becomes the de facto way you do it, and that's not what it's for.
Obviously, you can't take any action during executive session.
No, but she would like to have a discussion with the board to talk about what our options are to deal with this person, what her recommendation is, and what the consequences are. I certainly can do that, but I'd rather you have the opportunity to ask questions of her. Because I might be able to answer one or two questions, but probably not, it's probably best to talk to her. And so if everyone's agreeable.
Can we set up an executive session before, you want to do it after the first of the year? Or you want to do it?
We can do it whenever you want to do. We can just set up an executive session with Bill or with Julie. It doesn't matter. You want to do it now?
I'm fluid, whatever
Me
you say.
too.
I guess it's really up to.
It's up to your availability. We can certainly set up another Zoom or and ask. Let me check to find out what Julie's availability is for this phone call, and then I'll email everybody and we can move accordingly. That might be the best way to do it.
okay, sounds good.
Yeah.
Regarding the 2020 financial audit, do I have to sign that, or who signs that?
I typically have done it, Dennis. The board resolution was there.
Okay, I just was curious. I remember seeing the signature line. I'm not sure if that was something I needed to sign or not.
I've typically done it. If you're available and you come in, you can do it. It doesn't matter. I don't think they care.
Well, you guys can go ahead and take care of it then if you've done that in the past.
With that, we have, I mean, not much else, but that we have. It was easier oftentimes.
Okay. Is there anything else you have on the agenda?
Oh, no, I don't believe so.
Do we have to do anything about management raises? With the contract?
Didn't last year we talk about them being the same
When we
as,
did the contract, there was a motion.
I think you did a motion to extend them out to management.
Do we need to do the same thing then now?
I think you already did it.
I know we did one, we accepted the contract 2 years ago, the follow-up, I don't know if we need to do another one.
I think you did one, I mean,
I don't know.
We don't have to do it every year. The motion we made last year, 2 years ago,
was to
continues.
management the same raises as the union got.
Okay, good. I just, when I was looking at the budget, that popped in my mind. I wasn't sure if we need to do anything more formal, but if that's been done in the past through that previous motion, then that's fine.
I believe it has, and if it's not, I will let everybody know, and
Okay.
we'll deal with it. But I'm fairly certain that's how we did it last year, because we kept forgetting. And so the first of the year would roll around and the management raises would have to lag a week or two because we always forgot it. So I think at your suggestion, when we approved the contract, we said, hey, let's not forget this anymore. Let's do
Okay.
it.
So we did this contract, we had a motion to approve raises for KWD management staff mirroring those stated in the approved union contract.
I knew if I babbled long enough, Matt would have time to look it up. So
Okay, so we're fine there then.
we should, yes.
Okay. If there's nothing else, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn then.
I'll make that motion.
Second,
I'll
anyone?
second it, and have Merry Christmas, everyone.
Yes,
Merry Christmas, everybody.
Same to you, everyone. Thank you very much.
yes.
Okay,
Everybody be well.
See you
okay.
next.
I'll call you, Judy, tomorrow maybe.
All right, I'm in for the duration.
Okay,
Thank you.
thank you. Good night.
Night.
All right.